Hey, BJ. How
Welcome, sir.
you doing?
Good. Glad we could finally make it happen here.
Yeah, that was easy.
Yeah, it's easy. Schedules
Um,
nowadays.
yeah, so sorry, I was trying to hop on the Google invite, and I think I was logging in with the wrong account. You want to do it on this Zoom?
Yeah, we can do it right here.
Okay, cool. How you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'd love to start with you kind of giving an intro. I mean, your name and your player's name and whatever else you want to share with us.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm Bryant Mitchell. I'm the father of two boys, Landon and Wyatt Mitchell. 15, and Wyatt's 12, and Wyatt is the student enrolled in the play practice program. He's a seventh grader, rising eighth grader, and yeah, so I think we're at 8 or 9 weeks into the program so far, and really enjoying it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I was really excited to talk to you because you're a bit of an anomaly in our program in that we hadn't spoken to you before you signed up. You were a referral from our friend Ben Babcock, and you signed up first and paid your fee, and then you were like, "Hey, should we do a call and let me know what to do for here?" So
Yeah,
I'm curious, what did Ben tell you that really caused you to want to sign up? Sight unseen, which is rare for us.
yeah. Wow, I really did my due diligence, didn't I? Um, uh, well, I was on vacation, and Ben had shared this program, I think before we left, but then you just in our flurry of getting stuff done before we left, and I was on vacation when Ben was like, "Hey, we signed Luke up for this program, and the registration closes in a couple days." So poolside in the Caribbean, I was doing a little bit of research on the program, and Ben had shared his thoughts. And you do a good job of putting out content. So I watched one of your videos, which was a really kind of detailed overview of your approach in the program. Um, so I didn't. I honestly, doing the bit of research that I did, obviously talking to Ben, I trust Ben, and if he's going to put his son in the program like that, that speaks volumes, because I know him and the family, and he and Wyatt are friends and played together. That was another plus. But
Yeah.
I'd have to. So that aside, though, just reviewing what you had put together, what you were talking about, I was really impressed. I was really impressed with just how focused it was on Wyatt.
Yeah.
Insert other seventh grade boy or girl's name there, but um, I was like, wow, it makes a lot of sense. This is the age where they've kind of decided, hey, I want to really play this game, and I want to learn, I want to get better at it. I want to play in high school,
Yeah.
and it's competitive, and they gotta put in some work, and just showing up and playing rec basketball when it's basketball season probably isn't going to be enough. Just that gone are those days where kids play three sports a year and that's it. Um so but you were talking just about that, and about the where these kids find themselves and what they need, and if anything, I was like, man, it was almost too much. um
Mm.
but again, I knew Ben and I would kind of share the carpooling, and I thought, like, listen, we're happy to invest in our son's development, and this is as much about his personal development as it is about his development as a basketball player. I mean, I'll
Sure.
be frank with you. I don't care where. I don't. That's too harsh. I'm less concerned about where the sport of basketball takes him, and I'm more concerned about where he can go. And I think basketball is going to be a part of that,
Yeah.
and like sports was for me. So listen, you did a good job of encapsulating that in your messaging, and just the detail you put into the program. I was like, this seems like the perfect program at the perfect time for Wyatt. So yeah, we signed up on vacation, and trusted in the referral and what we saw from you online.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. That's a great testimonial that our content is working and the messaging is a fit. So that's great. So I like to hear, the parents' background. It's very common. Players that come to us are usually the son or daughter of a former basketball player or coach, like had some history themselves. And so tell me about your background in basketball. Like, how did you get started in sports and all that?
Yeah, less history in basketball, but certainly history as an athlete. Both my wife and I, and so for me, I played all the sports growing up: football, basketball, baseball. Dabbled in a little bit of. I think I got started with soccer first. Um, did a little bit of wrestling in high school, but football was that sport that just lit a flame within my heart, my soul. At the age of 9, I was a uh, kind of a forgotten middle child who lacked confidence, wasn't a great student, um, but I had hands like glue. I could catch anything,
Mm,
and that became who I was. Just didn't play football. I became a football player, and
yeah.
that was the tide that raised all boats for me. Um,
Mm,
I, I I began to mature and just gain confidence and perform better in school, perform better in other sports. Um, Made more friends socially. Just found developed my own personality, and I attribute a lot of that to me playing sports and specifically football. And I played football through high school, into college. So I played at a pretty high level, and I had to work my tail off. I was not the most naturally gifted player, so I developed an affinity for the work out of season and off the field to develop just to dive a bit deeper into that. Like, I was a walk on at UNH. I was not. I didn't receive any scholarship offers, but I had this belief that I could play there, and I walked on. And long story short, I made the team. I earned a half scholarship in a backup role. I then earned a full scholarship in a starting position as a wide receiver on the football team.
nice.
There's a whole longer story to that isn't as flattering, but point is, I knew what it took for me to get there. So I share all that with you because you asked, but also because I look at my boys and I see sports as that vehicle for them. And I don't care what the sport is. So for me, it wasn't basketball. I
Yeah.
couldn't play basketball in the seventh grade. I got a C in my report card. My dad said, no, no
Mm,
basketball for you.
wow.
I actually wonder if I had played in my seventh grade year, in my eighth grade year, would have I had tried out for the high school team, and maybe I wouldn't have wrestled. I also was 5'6", 110, so I don't know
Mm,
if basketball was in the cards for me at that point. Um, I had a hard enough time just mustering up the courage to play football.
yeah.
But I look at my boys, and my older boy is really focused on. He's played all the sports as well. Lacrosse is his favorite, so we're investing in him. He's a part of a club team. He plays on the high school lacrosse team. He just it's what excites him. It's what he's most motivated to do. So we
Yeah.
want to pour into that. And for Wyatt, I think being the younger brother, uh, who's just as talented, but in different ways than his older brother. Playing the same sports as older brother, who's a good athlete, you're in his shadow, and I think he's been working, maybe subconsciously, consciously, to find his own lane. And
Mm,
basketball is his lane, and so he was motivated to continue playing, and we saw that, you know, and this is something I wanted to share with you, BJ. You talked a lot about confidence, and I was thinking about just the name of your location, the lab.
mm,
It's what Wyatt and I think other boys and girls their age need is a place they can go and experiment and get great coaching. But what happens in a lab when you experiment? They don't all work. You fail, you learn, you try again.
yeah.
They don't want to make mistakes with their friends, you know, when it counts the most. This is the time where they can go and under your tutelage and your team, get those reps and get that coaching. And I've seen him do things in the short time he's been with you that he wasn't capable, willing, confident enough to do just in this past basketball season. So I think an environment that really is a safe environment that they feel like they can stretch and try things that maybe they were apprehensive to try before.
Mm. No, I appreciate that. That's really, really what we're going for. Someone else had actually built the facility that we now are in, called the Hoops Lab. They had their own training program, and we came in and kind of adopted it. And I was like, yeah, we're gonna keep it just for that reason. It's like we are in a laboratory trying stuff out and like making it work. And yeah, I think there's a huge aspect. I've often described it like three layers of pressure that players experience. Like in games, it's like you're in the fishbowl, everybody's watching, the pressure's high, you got to succeed. But even in a normal team practice, to your point, like your buddy's going to giggle at you if you dribble off your foot. And so there's something about, the windowless gym where mistakes are okay and we're working out the kinks and, we're all here kind of in that same boat. And
Yeah.
really makes
I'll share something with you. Like we saw Wyatt. His strength is he's a good passer. He's
mm,
he's he's still growing. Obviously, they're all seventh graders. They're still growing, but he's smaller, slighter build. Hasn't hit the weight room yet. Um, he's he's a good passer. He's still needs to develop that step, that separation, that ability to drive to the hoop. And I think it's going to be repetition and confidence. And that's a chicken or an egg, proposition. You have to have the confidence
yes.
to try it, but you have to try it to gain the confidence.
Mm,
I see him doing it with you. I don't sit there and watch every second of every session, but I usually come in the last 15 and just to see how it's going and have something to talk to him about afterwards. And you
yeah,
stopped him the other day. He gave a move, created some separation, took a deep two, and you're like, "Hey, stop. Okay, here's what you did. That was good. What else could you have done?" And you
mm,
forced him to think about what his other options were, what could have been a better decision to make,
yeah,
and you opened his eyes to, hey, take that separation instead of picking up the dribble, continue, go to the basket. What's going to happen then, Wyatt? Thinking, thinking, thinking. Defense is going to react. You're going to get closer to the basket and take a shot, or they're going to slide over to cover you. You can pocket pass it to a teammate.
right.
And I was like, that's exactly what um, he wasn't doing during the season. And he doesn't want to turn the ball over. He wasn't confident in his left hand. So all these things that you're getting them to practice in a
Mm,
safe environment, now he's seeing that they can work. So I've been thrilled that from a skills standpoint, he's beginning to develop that repertoire.
yeah. Oh, that's great. I appreciate the observation of that. Definitely the questioning approach has been, my most rewarding method for sure. Is like, stop and just think about, what did you just do? What could you have done differently? And like get them to come to their own answers. A powerful method for sure.
It it is the most powerful method, and I've observed you deploy it. You throw a lot of information at them, and I think I was actually observing Wyatt's session the other night with my older boy, and I said, what I really like about this is he's constantly creating these situations, and they have to listen, absorb the situational context that BJ's giving them, and then perform a drill. Now, do they always get it right? Probably never, actually, but they have to. They're listening and they're applying, and those are. I mean, why it's still not where he can be academically, but that's a great skill for him to focus to what the teacher's saying, follow the instructions. Um, so, but you do a nice mix of providing them content, instruction, direction, and then turning the table and asking them to think about what they did, what they could have done. You get it to come out of their own mouth. Like this. That's the uh, the what is it? The Socratic method.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So it's the most effective way because that's when it registers for them.
Right.
Listen, obviously you can hear that I have a tendency to talk a lot. My kids are not immune to that. So being able
Yeah.
to pause, ask a question, and just listen, that's
Mm,
the most effective way to teach them.
absolutely. Yeah. So take me back to Wyatt's early days. Like I want to hear kind of the story of his journey. When did he start playing basketball? Like how did that evolve, up to now before you found us?
Yeah, he started playing, I guess, in town. We live in Amesbury, so we're south of the border um, of you all. Probably second, third grade, and he's a scrappy, competitive kid. Um, a little bit about Wyatt that I think makes him unique and special. He's he has a rare disease. He has cystic fibrosis, uh, diagnosed in utero, born with blockages in his intestines. Spent the first 4 months of his life in Children's Hospital, several surgeries, intensive care. He got off to a really rough start.
Mhm.
Another you know byproduct of having cystic fibrosis is just this just struggle to absorb nutrients from food. Um, they've developed a lot of therapies to support CF patients, and he's benefited from those. Um, but up until about 3 years ago, he was even thinner and scrawnier than you see him now. And he's now taking a new drug called Trikafta, which was developed for the majority of the CF population that have a common mutation. And I say this to him, it's like steroids for him, because
Yeah.
he all of a sudden was able to absorb more nutrients from food, put on weight, gain more strength. And
Mhm.
now that he's playing more basketball, so bring this back to your question, he's been developing, he's been gaining strength. He's spending less time on the ground picking himself up because he didn't have the strength to cut and move and execute athletic moves, to now learning how to develop you know um, you know you know that kind of you know you know those moves to get separation, to get to the basket. So he's been slowly evolving with basketball. Still played other sports. I think this is the first year where he decided, hey, I don't want to play baseball this spring. I want to continue to play basketball. And he'll roll into football in the fall. Um, but I know he'll be excited to pick up the basketball again, next November.
Oh, that's great. So he was really just playing, town rec ball for the past several years and doing that, like one season a year, it sounds like, between other sports. So this
It was
is a,
one season a year between other sports. And actually, I'll share with you this. This is kind of interesting. So before we signed up for your program, we took him to an AAU tryout of some sorts, and he went, and he actually went with Luke. And there's a good mix of talent there. A couple coaches, ran these kids through the paces. It was actually a really well run tryout. And there's some kids that were really good. There's some kids that weren't as good, and there's some kids in the middle. I would say Wyatt and Luke were probably in the middle. Um, but the thing is with AAU, you're gonna get put on a team. They'll find a team for everybody, and you're gonna get put on a team. Um, but what's that? You just don't know what you're gonna get,
yeah,
and it could work out great. It's the same thing with club lacrosse, frankly, and it's worked out well for our older boy. But you just don't know what you're gonna get, so it's a bit of a crapshoot. Um, with your program, I thought it was more certain of he's gonna get reps, he's gonna get focused coaching, um, and I think that's what he needs right now, rather than just being put on a team. Because I mean, being an athlete, you plateau in a season, and unless the coach is really focused on development, they figure out the roles that the skill level of the players they have, and the roles they're going to put them in so that they can execute to a high level
right.
for that collection of talent.
Yeah,
And that's good if your goal is to win.
right.
It's not good if your goal is to develop players. And I think a lot of times, they say they're going to develop talent because you are playing the game, so you're going to get better, but you also plateau because you're typecast in a role. And
Yeah.
I think that's what was appealing about your program, is like I knew it was going to be a well-rounded, exposure to things that he wasn't necessarily getting through town basketball, or he would have gotten through AAU.
Yeah, I think it's a great observation. I've definitely come to the same conclusion. It's like I call it frozen in time, where a lot of players will go like fifth grade or sixth grade into AAU, and they might play for 3 years there, like year round, 4 seasons a year, and then they come out in high school and like they really haven't progressed because of
Yeah,
that, the pressure to win. And it's kind of like I think there's a Navy SEAL statement. I'm going to get it wrong, but you basically devolve to your lowest level of habits when you're under pressure. And I think that's what happens a lot. And so, like you're saying, is like, Wyatt's the scrappy guard that maybe he's going to be ball handling and passing because that's the role we see for him. And he's not going to be able to score, able to shoot, and able to do anything else. And so I think there's a ceiling to the benefit of that. It's a balance between the competitive atmosphere and experiencing that and getting comfortable with it, but not really adding any new skills for sure.
Yeah, that's a great call out. Yeah, I think it's you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your preparation, or there's other variations of that same.
Yeah,
But it's true, and um, again, I think just to simply state it, the environment you've created uh, encourages them to try things and fail, and I think that's the fast track to development is as an athlete. I'd actually say that's the fast track to development as a human is
mm,
putting yourself in a position where you can make, you know, intelligent failures or safe
yeah,
fails and
yeah.
then learn from them. So I love what you've done.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I really like to call that the faster feedback loop. It's like most people try to avoid mistakes, and so they don't make any, they don't get any feedback, and they don't improve very quickly. And like if we can find that fail point, feedback, fix it next, like do that multiple times in an hour, then we're just learning way faster than anybody else, and so it makes our job fun.
Yeah. And again, that confidence you're giving them carries over into other aspects as well. I'm already seeing that with Wyatt. Academically, my wife and I have met with his teachers earlier this season, and then this school year, and then just recently. And the feedback we're getting, it's good to hear because, and again, we want to expose Wyatt to different coaches, different situations. We want to support and challenge him, and that's
Mm,
what good coaches will do as well. And I see that's what you're doing.
mm.
Um, and I just want you to know that's carrying over uh, outside of the hoops lab as well. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I like to, I guess, been kind of a recent way that I've narrowed I guess my mission in life is how I'm starting to describe it. Is like I help people learn how to learn, and basketball just happens to be a way to do that. That's really fun and engaging and self-motivating for the players, right? I often talk to teachers like, I don't envy your job. Like we have to learn advanced math right now, and the kids don't necessarily have any intrinsic motivation toward that. But it's like I get to show them a ball and toss it through a hoop, and we can learn how to learn in a really fun environment. And hopefully that does translate is the ultimate goal.
Yeah,
So,
well, I think it absolutely does, and there's so many, not the old cliche what percentage free throws did you hit? If you hit 6 out of 10, that kind of stuff. But you broke down rebounding the other night, and I was like, man, this is next level. Like, let's think about where the shot's coming from. What's the probability of where it's going to go if it hits the rim?
yeah,
And just getting them thinking, I'd never even thought about that. But getting them thinking about how they position themselves, that's physics and it's probability.
yeah,
Um, and
right,
listen, if they can learn that there, then those are the same concepts that they're going to be asked to learn. So yeah, learning to learn. That's I think where kids that maybe don't excel in school at a young age, they just haven't figured out how to learn yet. And
right.
maybe they've convinced themselves that they're not smart or that the subject matter is boring. Yes, it can be, but I think they just need to learn how to learn. So that's another unexpected benefit of your program.
Well, thanks.